Welcome back to Muse Aloud, a podcast where anonymous voices share their thoughts on a theme within a dreamscape of music and ambient sound. Today's episode is about fear. Please be advised that the music and the atmosphere are designed to unsettle, and the subjects discussed by our contributors may be upsetting to some. Trigger warnings include snakes, sharks, abandonment, grandfathers, dentistry, lobster puppets, blood, and all the frightening realities of being an adult in the 21st century. Stay with us and keep listening if you dare. And now, Episode 2, Fear.
Yeah, I remember having lots of phobias and fears as a little kid, a whole slew of them.
I was really scared of my grandpa. He wasn't a very nice grandpa. He was a pretty scary man.
But I think the one I have the most vivid was being left alone. I once woke up and my dad, who was still with my mom at the time, I was maybe 4 or 5, and he had taken my brother and sister to run an errand, and I had fallen asleep on the couch. And I guess from his perspective as an adult, he's like, oh, we're just going to the corner store and we'll be back in 20 minutes. It's not that long.
And he took a lot of delight in pranking people and frightening children and stuff. And what was really scary was that these sort of gags that he was presenting, it wasn't clear whether or not these were things that applied to him in particular or just were sort of symptoms of old age.
But I ended up waking up in the time that they were gone and no one was in the house, and I called out everyone's name, and it was this big house in Mississauga, a huge new subdevelopment. And I walked into every room and I opened up all the closets and I knew I was alone, and then I started crying and freaking out. And when they came home, I was full on crazy. I had thrown the pillows everywhere off of the seat cushions everywhere. And I was I guess knocked over some cereal boxes. I don't know, I was freaking out. So I don't really know what my logic was in that, because obviously if I was truly alone, I would have needed that to survive.
For example, he would spit his teeth out. You'd be eating a meal with him, then he'd be check this out, and he would cough his teeth onto his plate. Or he would do weird things with his muscles. He'd be look at what and he would sort of pop his muscles out of their sockets and stuff. Or he was a big fan of hiding behind doors and surprising you, or driving and pretending to fall asleep. And I wasn't sure, it wasn't clear if that was just his personality, or that these are things that happen to you when you get old. So yeah, I found Grandpa very scary.
I don't remember being afraid as a little kid. I loved Goosebumps. Remember Goosebumps? The R.L. Stine novels, and then TV show. lots of like being stuck in a mall at night and then everything coming alive, that kind of thing. That was like good scary, like normal good scary. I can't remember when that turned into actually not being able to sit through a horror movie.
When I was a kid, we had this lobster puppet that was supposed to be a toy, and I have no idea why, but it terrified the hell out of me. Like, I hated this thing. And my parents, and specifically my parents' friends, thought this was like really funny. So my parents' friends would come over just to torment me with this puppet. And the funnier it was for them, like, the worse it got for me. I have no idea why it was. Like, I had nothing against the ocean or fish or whatever. Maybe just the particular design of this toy. Probably more than anything, it was being afraid of adults laughing at my discomfort. Yeah, other than that, I don't know that there was any one thing that I was generally afraid of, other than, like, actually kind of adults. Hated having to talk to an adult as a kid. That was terrifying.
I am terrified of snakes. I grew up in the country on a farm, so I had a lot of snakes around me. We used to catch them when I was a kid. I was fine with them at first. We would catch garter snakes and red bellies, and we would put them in different tubs while we were going haying. And then one day my childhood best friend Matt, he was looking in, and somehow a garter snake just like latched on to his cheek. And I just remember him looking up and screaming with this snake hanging off of his face. And that really changed the game for me when it came to snakes. So they would come up on our back. We had this like back cement thing that was on top of a well, and these big, gigantic garter snakes would go up there to sun themselves. And my swing was out back there, and so I would take my dad's big fire boots and a hockey stick and get the snakes off of the concrete with a hockey stick and these big rubber boots.
I think I remember being afraid of the dark, just kind of general fear, and also the furnace room in my parents' house in the basement, right at the bottom of the stairs. The door to it was always open, and it was always dark, and you could always sort of see glimpses of the furnace inside. And I remember having this kind of idea of a monster in there. Like, I don't know if I saw a picture of this or something in a movie, but there was an image in my head that was sort of like a gorilla with like a bloody mouth. And I think I had an idea that was in the furnace room. Gorilla with a bloody mouth.
Sharks. In second grade, a boy dressed up as a shark for Halloween, and I had dressed up as a cat. And in a show of flirtation, he chased me around the yard as a shark, like trying to catch my tail. Literally chasing tail. And I kind of developed this fear of sharks because of like the way that they could maneuver and like how you couldn't outswim them or outsmart them. Like, if they want to get you, they will get you. And so like people swimming underwater towards me in a pool would like freak me out, because there was just like, you're so unwieldy in the water. Like, what are you supposed to do?
I was babysitting when I was living in New York, and I took the little guy that I was babysitting to like the Bronx Zoo. And he wanted to go in to see the big, gigantic snakes, and I just couldn't do it. I could not be around a snake that was bigger than I was, because my hockey stick would be no match for it. It'd be like a toothpick.
And fish. yeah, like fish looking at me, seeing fish in the fish store, scooping fish out of the fish tank when it needed to be cleaned. Yeah, I find fish creepy. Yeah, they lived in a big tank, and every now and again, like awful things would happen to them. Like sometimes they would kill each other. We bought a crab once, and the crab started murdering the fish. That's pretty bad. One time we cleaned the fish tank, but we forgot to put the filter back on the filter back on the pump that pumps the water and purifies the water. So like all the fish got sucked up into the pump and killed. So yeah, it was just like these sort of like alien creatures living, and sometimes like horrible things would happen to them.
Yeah, I think like probably being alone, or like being left alone, because also then like later, even as I grew older, if like I wandered away from my parents at a store or something, and then was like I'd have reminiscent feelings of being like, oh no, I'm never gonna find them again. And then that like paralyzing fear of like you can't actually, because I'd been taught not to talk to strangers. So then I was like, there's no way out of this problem because I can't talk to any of the adults who are wandering around the store to tell them I'm lost. So then I would just cry in the toy department of like wherever I was, and then some employee would find me usually and be like, are you lost? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm lost. And then something would happen. I'd usually be reunited with my mom or my sister or somebody from my family, and it'd be such like a big moment for me.
I remember a commercial that had a very sort of old-fashioned spooky music cue, just sort of like da-dum. And I remember running out of the room screaming, and it was just a commercial. But I could tell that it was referencing something scary, and I couldn't handle that.
I could not handle horror or upsetting things at all. And I think for me, when in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, when Christopher Lloyd like grabs that shoe and like puts it like, I thought that was the most upsetting thing I could imagine. Like I couldn't believe that it was in a movie, and I remember like ranting about it to my mom. I was like, and they put it in a movie for children. Like it's such a, because the shoe was a cartoon and it's squeaky. I don't know, like everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? It's such an upsetting scene. And I was very, very frightened of, I had a low tolerance for scary things. Even movies that, like Ghostbusters or The Witches, like teachers would put it on in class because there were a couple days left and they just needed to burn through it. But yeah, I found any kind of scene of anybody getting murdered, anybody being terrorized, ghosts, like I couldn't handle any of it.
Things about vampires always fascinated me and also really scared me. I remember all of the nightmares that I had as a little kid would be about both vampires and television. There was this vampire show that I remember was on YTV when I was a kid about like a little boy who became friends with another little boy who was a vampire, and I was intrigued by the show, but I was also too scared to watch it. And I had a nightmare where two of the vampire characters from the show came into my bedroom while I was sleeping and wheeled in a TV on one of those old like stands with wheels like from a classroom and just started making me watch episodes of their show.
So as a consequence, I missed that big 80s boom of horror. Like my sister and her friends were always watching Nightmare on Elm Street and all those movies, and I couldn't do it. So I've just like